It's quite interesting, Mr. Speaker, to see Kate Wilkinson speaking on this first reading of this bill. I'm really not sure who is the Minister for Food Safety at this stage, because food safety was merged into MAF on 1st of July, and we're still not clear who is running the show, if you like, on this food bill. Is it the Minister of Agriculture? Is it Minister for Conservation and Labour? Who would know? This Minister of Conservation, he has mucked up the 90-day bill that she has introduced, and he has mucked up the lives of many workers in New Zealand. And this is the same Minister who's been rolled over by Mr. Brownlee in the mining area, a Minister for Conservation, but she has been part of that mining in association with Mr. Brownlee. Mr. Speaker, this bill refers to the food in New Zealand and imported food and exported food. In New Zealand, our main business is food. We produce food for about 60 million people, but in New Zealand, of course, we consume a very small portion of that food. And of course, we got about $20 billion worth of food is exported, and about $22 billion worth of estimated annual turnover in the food area. And we employ over 20% of our workforce in the food area, whether it's production or processing or retail and all that. So it's a very important employment for New Zealand, for export, and as well as for the social fabric of the society. Mr. Speaker, this bill is an important bill which has been in preparation for a number of years, actually. And going back, actually, I have to acknowledge the good work done by Leanne Dalzell, our former Minister of Food Safety, and Annette King, who has been in the forefront of preparing this bill and doing the background work over a number of years, and now, of course, is come to the House after a number of years of preparation. And can I say, Mr. Speaker, we support this bill initially to the Select Committee, and of course we will have the opportunity as Select Committee to receive submissions from the sector, the water sector. I hope the chairman of the Primary Production Select Committee will give us opportunity, the submitters, plenty of time to submit on this bill, because this is a bill, as the Minister just said, that a major review after 30 years. And there's a huge bill, there are 400 clauses. You know, it's a big bill, and of course, I think we need to give plenty of time for the submitters, whether they're in the manufacturing area or in the retail area, exporter, importers. I think this is something we got to give enough time for people to submit on it, and we welcome the introduction of this bill. When we were in the office, we were proactive in recognizing the shortfalls under the existing food regulations. Mr. Speaker, we initiated the Domestic Food Review, which identified this major problem of foodborne illnesses that we have in New Zealand. Clearly, 18,000 cases of intestinal illness a year, with 1,000 of those requiring hospitalization. It's completely unacceptable. This review also identified the confusion resulting from 3 different food regimes and 3 different regulators operating simultaneously. Labour then oversaw the first draft of the food bill that we now see being introduced in the Parliament. We support changes to improve the business certainty and ensure that compliance costs are kept to a minimum. Given the current economic situation, it makes sense that food businesses that are subject to food control plan will have the ability to sign up to a generic template that covers their whole sector. Mr. Speaker, there are, as the Minister said, a number of key tools in this bill which are important, and that, as the Minister has highlighted, These are the key areas, for example, the food control plans. And these plans are particularly related to high-risk business like restaurants. So every restaurant around the country, similar businesses have to have food control plans. And secondly, there got to be national programs for the low to medium risk businesses, for example, horticulture producers and meat producers, those areas there has to be, which are the low to medium risk businesses, there has to be some kind of national programs for these. And then thirdly, we got to have food handler guidance, particularly educational information for the low-risk operators, like fundraising, as the Minister mentioned before, and those kind of, sizzlers and, fundraising events, those kind of things. We got to have some kind of guidance and information provided to these people. So, and fourthly, monitoring the programs to impose measures to determine safety and suitability of food. So those are 4 areas, are 4 tools, if you like, in the armory of this Act to ensure that we have a suitable and appropriate food for New Zealanders and for exporters. Now, can I come specifically to a couple of these areas, Mr. Speaker? In terms of food plans, we support the concept of a schedule to establish those high-risk businesses subject to food control plans, those medium to low-risk businesses where compliance to a regional program, to a national program is required, and those low-risk operations such as fundraising activities where food handling guidance through education will suffice. On that point, we'll be seeking a guarantee that this bill will have no impact on the cake stall holders, the sausage sizzlers, and particularly I'm a bit worried because in this bill, when I look at this section 93, I think I highlighted in a question early on to the Minister, in section 93 2B, it says that food handler guidance is liable to prosecution if the failure to comply with those requirements is an offence against this Act. So I think there's issues like that. There are some fishhooks there that we still need to look at, and I'm sure that some of those will come through at the Select Committee, and we'll be looking at the details of that. Mr. Speaker, in terms of costs to the operators, we need to be paying close attention to any increased cost incurred, as according to the documents already released to the Labour by under the Official Information Act, fees in Dunedin have already jumped by $300 for some operators after territorial authorities released their charges and they found that their charges, current charges, was quite inadequate. We also note that in the interim, many territorial authorities eased up on the forcing compliance because they knew the new regulations or new legislation was coming. And we hope that when the new legislation begins to impact and the adjustments are made, that it doesn't bite too hard on the small operators that have been disadvantaged through the economic recession. And also, in relation to the importers, Mr. Speakers, I think it's very important that this bill has come for particularly imported food, because I'm really personally concerned about some of the food we are importing, particularly some of the developing countries where food regulations, hygiene are not very good, and I think this bill hopefully will take care of some of those issues that we face every day in small shops like dairies and those kind of places. So the food bill requires every consignment of food to be imported by a registered importer. I think that's very good, that those importers should be registered, whether directly as an agent for a person importing food, and requires the Chief Executive to keep and maintain a public register of registered importers. And I think that's very good, that there should be a register for those people importing the goods, the food. These requirements do not exist currently and will enable more effective communication with and targeting of importers in situations that present risk and when otherwise necessary. So, Mr. Speaker, in the final analysis, can I say that We will be particularly